Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, welcome to the Common Sense Show. We are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really good to be with you. We are the show that defends God, family, country in that order, and we have a special place in our heart for the oppressed, and we try to help them as best we can. And what we're really engaged in right now is we are looking at a changing of civilization, a new economic structure, a new social political structure is all coming into play, and it's attempting to have a huge influence on our spiritual beliefs. And I'm hopeful that one, if nothing good comes of what I do, except one thing, that I've done my job. One is you need to protect your faith, be true in your faith, and stay in your faith faithfully a lot, because it will protect you from these changes that are coming. And these changes do not benefit the average person. When the Constitution came into effect, over time, it improved the lives of people. What we're talking about here is taking away from the lives of the majority of the people. And once that's accomplished, the infrastructure is set to take away your belief system. And we're already propagandized to death, and you just need to get into the repetition of advertising to prove that. We are looking at a complete transformation right now. And what we're specifically seeing is this mantra. In fact, Barry Weiss from CBS News and other Zionist capitalists wrote a piece for the Washington Post basically saying if you have nothing to hide, then you wouldn't mind flock cameras. And I'm just saying that is so against what the founding fathers believed. And as I said in the last segment, expressed in the Federalist Papers. In this segment, we're going to take a look at when you have a concentration of power resulting from police state surveillance grid being established. The flock cameras, the financial system, we're going to get into that in a separate segment. But when you look at all this, history is very clear about what happens. Very clear. That's this segment. The next segment, I think, is even more important, and I separated them on purpose. This is the historical analysis of what's going on right now. What can we learn from history? Next segment, we're going to look at what the Bible has to say about all this, and that is really the guiding light. So, you know what we do here? We're really glad to have you here. We have a great, great sponsor with three tremendous products. And those three tremendous products would be the Nanosoma family, the spray, the gel, and the cream. And they're absolutely fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, if you don't have this in your medicine kit, you are sadly, sadly lacking, especially with supply chain problems that are looming. Did you know that diesel right now, some people in North Dakota are paying $6 a gallon? And we know that break-even point for truckers is 6.50. Food and medicine would be casualties of this. We live in a nation that has a 3,000-mile salad. Your medicines are shipped. This is a dire situation. So what we look at here with the Magic Dicol products is the starter pack. You get three Nanosoma liquid sprays, and I've told the story endless times. This gave me my life back when I had RSV and strep lung linings and negative prognosis for medical professionals. And today I'm better than I've ever been, at least for the last 25 years. And then there's the gel you put on your joints. It grows pluripotent stem cells, over 30 peer-reviewed studies on this. It takes time. For me, it was 6 to 8 weeks from when I really noticed it to when I thought, I don't have any pain now. I can do pretty much what I want. It will vary from person to person, but eventually, stay on the course, it works. And then the skin cream for cuts and burns together, the starter pack, 15% off. Every medicine kit in America needs to have these products, particularly with supply chain problems looming and what's going on. By the way, if you think I'm exaggerating on this, our oil reserves are at a 40-year low. We're ready to re-enter a new phase of the war that's going to drain that even more. Everything is shipped. Need I say more? Now let's take a look at what history has to say. And I made this into like a classroom presentation. What does history have to say about a police state surveillance grid being set up, eliminating privacy and negating what people in the mainstream media are saying? If you've got nothing to hide, then you shouldn't mind being surveilled. Well, let's see what history says. The mantra, if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't mind being surveilled, is one of the most effective and historically disproven slogans in expanding state power. It reframes a structural question of power, accountability, and human dignity as a personal morality test. History and scripture both reject that framing. We're going to deal with the history first in this segment. What does history teach? History teaches there's a consistent pattern. Surveillance systems justified by security almost always expand beyond their original targets, redefine the threat, and become tools of social and political control. The innocent are not protected by their innocence. They become data points in systems that the powerful control. And I'll get into that in a second, but I just want to say this very quickly. We have people sitting in prison right now because of mistaken flock camera data. One lady just got a 70-year sentence. Her lawyers maintain they have no proof of anything except what Flock says. Moving on. Mission creep is the rule, not the exception. The East German Stasi began as a security service and grew into one of the most intrusive systems ever in history. It kept files on millions of ordinary citizens and recruited vast numbers of informants. Does this see something, say something mantra? Does that ring a bell? Roughly one in every 6 to 7 adults in East Germany under the Stasi system had some connection and used psychological methods to destroy career, relationships, mental health of people who are not violent criminals. And after the regime fell, citizens discovered how thoroughly their lives had been mapped and weaponized. The same dynamic appeared in the Soviet system with the KGB and in Nazi Germany with the Gestapo, which relied heavily on denunciations, protective custody, stop predictive policing that we're seeing unfolding in New Orleans. And we've covered that aspect of deploying police to where we know certain kinds of people are going to commit crimes. One, it's racist. Number two, predictive programming is a joke. It's a joke. It's an excuse to expand the police because there's so many variables in human behavior. If we could do predictive everything, there'd be no point in living your life. Predestiny. It's just not realistic. The state gets to define what must be hidden. Once the capacity for total visibility exists, the definition of unacceptable behavior expands. You remember after 9/11, oh, we're looking for those Middle Eastern terrorists that infiltrated our country. And then when all the TSA regulations came in, you were the domestic terrorist. And then they came out with reports in the Obama administration. And they had the data fusion centers. Remember that? The threat fusion centers? If you were a Christian, yep. If you were a Second Amendment proponent, if you were a constitutionalist in general, if you wanted limits put on governmental power, these were all guidelines from DHS that got you on a list to be surveilled by the threat fusion centers. It started narrowly with foreign concerns and expanded to you. And this is what Flock and all these data surveillance systems are all about, whether it's Axon, flying drones, it's the same thing. Okay, so I put down here in my notes, what begins as hunting spies or terrorists becomes nothing more than monitoring political opinions religious practice, family conversations, economic activity, and cultural nonconformity. They want the Borg. It's the only reason you do this. China's modern system, combining cameras, digital tracking, social credit scoring, and data fusion, illustrates the contemporary version. Behavior is scored and constrained in real time. They claim only the guilty need to worry, and it assumes a fixed and just limited definition of guilt. However, history shows regimes continually redraw that line about what's acceptable. We're going to review at some point in this series NPSM number 7, which says who's a domestic terrorist. And wait till you see again how broadly this is written. And we've covered it matter of factly from 30,000 feet. In this series, we're going to look at this upfront, close and personal, because you're going to see you're probably on a list. How high up the list you are, it depends on your political or religious activity. Now, they say today, hey, we're protecting Christianity, but they're doing unchristian things in this surveillance system. It's really a catch-22. Okay. Here's a conclusion I've come to. Surveillance creates fear, conformity, and self-censorship. People, after speech, association, and even thought they know they are watched, they change their behavior. Actually, in research, we call that the Hawthorne effect. This is not theoretical. Totalitarianism systems deliberately cultivate mutual suspicion so that citizens police one another. The result, especially in East Germany, was not greater safety, but a society less able to correct its own errors and resist abuse. Even limited democracies experience the same pressure. Democratic governments repeatedly expand surveillance in crisis, wartime, terrorism, crime waves. 9/11 is the perfect example of this. Files accumulate, errors proliferate, and institutional developments happen that keep the tools in line. In other words, it becomes a profitable enterprise to engage in the police state surveillance system. Palantir is the best example of that statement. Okay, let's continue. Privacy is not about primarily hiding wrongdoing. It's about limiting the power of the state and other institutions over the individual, the family, and civil society. Without zones of private life, free speech, free association, religious practice, and political opposition are at risk. The nothing to hide argument collapses under this record. It assumes a benevolent, competent, and limited surveiller. But history shows that's not what happens. Show me a place where you increase surveillance and liberty stays the same. It doesn't exist. And I'm saying this to you people who are history buffs, maybe have a history education. Show me where increased surveillance and taking away privacy and having a see something, say something society of informants, show me where this increases liberty. And where I worry about this the most, one, free speech. You can't have free speech, you can't have reform. And reforms are needed because people make mistakes. Number two, and really should be number one on my list, is I worry about the intrusion into religious freedom. And we've already seen it. What's happened to the nation morally since we took prayer out of the classroom? Can someone tell me that, please? I think it's obvious what's happened. You produce impulsive, immediate gratification, self-indulgent people who feel they're entitled and they engage in mob mentality. This is what's happened in America, and anything goes. Who are you to judge me? I'm a free agent. I get to engage in my own immoral behavior, shut up and go away. We see a whole organization in the WNBA based on this. And it's exposed every day with the abuse of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. It's your choice, people. You want a system like this? Just remain silent. If you don't want a system like this, number one, pray for discernment, pray for guidance that you'll do the thing that God approves of. But we need reform and we need activists in this reform. And right now, mass voting can't be overturned. Close elections can be, but mass voting can't be yet. You have the ability to remove people and make it clear why you're removing them. This is the first step. I'm Dave Hodges. This is the Common Sense Show. We will see you back here again next time.